Everybody ready? You got your glasses on?
We got,
I got your glasses. Perfect,
we got
perfect.
Trustee Teets on
Oh, she's on?
Zoom, I believe. Trustee Teets, can you still hear us?
I can.
Cool. Okay, so obviously joint meeting with Senior Resource Center and then us, the board. Let's go around and give our names and introductions and start with Patty.
Hi guys, Patty Garcia, Town Administrator. Good to see you all.
I am Jenny Jones, the Public Works Program Administrator, as well as the Town Senior Liaison.
I'm Wes Knoxted. I'm the president of the Senior Center.
Dawkins, I'm Secretary. Dorothy McClure, and I'm the Director of the Senior Center.
Francis Boyd, I'm the VP. I'm Diana Freeman, Treasurer.
Ashley McDonald, Mayor Pro Tem.
Ryan Mason, Wellington trustee.
Dave Weekend, trustee.
Rebecca Daly, Trustee.
Taylor Chelsea, Mayor.
John Gator, trustee.
And I'm Ethan Moose, the town clerk.
And Trustee Teets.
Oh, yeah,
Sherelle Teets, trustee.
There we go.
there you go, there you go. So you guys have a presentation for us today?
Yeah, not a formal presentation, more of words of the mind here. We just want to discuss current and planned senior programming, kind of utilization of the current space and how that plays into current as well as future planning for activities and resources. And then also discuss some funding constraints that will be sadly presenting itself by February of 2024 based on the cut in county funding with the Larimer County Office of Aging. They essentially, I think, cut it in about half. So we just
under half.
just under half. So, and then essentially asked to split it between 2 years. So that budget will directly impact transportation, getting our seniors to critical medical appointments. So that's definitely something we want to discuss as well. So do you want to discuss kind of the current programming, any planned programming, Dorothy?
Okay. One of the questions was our current program. And right now the senior center is open 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday from like 8:30. We have exercise class on Mondays and Fridays. So we're open at 8 those days. And then on Wednesday, we have a band that comes at 10:30, and they've been coming for, I think, close to 17 years now. And so I don't open till 9 o'clock because nobody gets there till 10:30 when the band does. Right now, we have one potluck a month on a Wednesday, so the band can participate with us. We also do haircuts every other month, and it's $20 per haircut for men and women. We have a hairdresser that comes into the center and uses the office. We also have foot care with a registered nurse, and she comes in every 8 weeks. We do that also in the office for privacy and that. We have this month started massage therapy, and we're doing that to start with twice a month. And it will also be in the office for privacy. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We do 2 outings a month on a Tuesday and Thursday when the bus is not being used for medical appointments. And we go to local places for lunch, tour museums, any other activities that we can find that would be interesting to the seniors. And we do 2 a month on a Tuesday or a Thursday so that we can use the bus for transportation. And we've gone as far as Laramie, south. We have gone to Denver a few times. But usually it's around Fort Collins or Cheyenne, Loveland. And those are very popular. Our future future programming. I would like to see the senior center open 5 days a week. And I think we're growing so much. We've got 101 members, I think. And I think we could probably fill up the 5 days. Awful more.
How much have you grown over the past 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, probably. Have you got it?
I have a number for you here.
Oh, okay.
Our 2020 membership was 85. And I have 102 for now.
Okay.
About 20%.
Yeah.
Whereas each year we lose a few between going into nursing homes or that, but, we get some new, just last month, we had 3 new members join.
And we figure the demographics of the Wellington influx of people is 12,000. And of that 12,000, 10% are seniors. So we feel like, you know, we should encourage seniors to join our membership. Yeah.
Have a membership dues or?
$25 a year.
Very nominal, $25.
We
a
upped it
year.
from 15 to 25.
And for college, the senior center is $5 a day. That's how expensive it is. It's a rec center, it's not a senior center,
Right.
the way it is set up.
That's interesting to know.
Yeah, I drove that bus for 10 years. Most of mine were, dialysis patients and stuff, but I mean, I tell you what, I took me every doctor and dentist I know in Fort Collins. One time or another, I mean, I hit them all. I mean, I had one lady, she worked for a hospital for 30 years at Boulder Valley, and guess where all her doctors and nurses, everything was at? Way out on Taft Hill Road, on the west side of town, southwest side of town. I said, lady, well, and she lived here in Wellington. She even come on, lady. But just one of those things, but I did that for 10 years, and then I told them I had to quit, so.
So you're not driving now?
No, no, sir. Well, bad part was I retired from that. My daughter died in a car wreck and I was taking care of all that stuff. And next thing you know, I said, I have to retire. You have to quit driving the bus. And then they elect me president. And I said, wait a minute.
You gotta keep him involved.
Right. Keeps me out of trouble at home. And they bad part about that. My wife had a stroke in January. I lost her eyesight most of it. So now helping her was a lot of stuff that I didn't plan on at that time. So, and we're taking care of my granddaughters, my daughter's 2 kids, so my grandkids. At least 5 days a week, sometimes 6 and 7, so it just depends. I was telling Patty Garcia, they're 7 and 11, so we got a few years, but I hope we last long enough to watch them both graduate. So, right. No, we got a lot more problems to do with this thing than that, so.
We're part of this growing to say 5 days a week. We have space constraints. We don't have enough room. There's a set group of people that come Wednesday that love the music. They don't come on Mondays and Fridays. And most of the people on Monday and Friday don't come on Wednesday. Where if we had more room, we could have things going on that would attract all of them all the time. We could have a room with pool table for the guys to play pool, or a designated room for playing cards and that. And if they want to sit around and visit, then they're not being distracted by other things going on.
And we could also invite speakers to
Yeah.
talk more about seniors. Because we have a senior group here that a lot of them are single. They've lost their spouses. So we encourage that, like Fort Collins Senior Center, they have so many. I mean, look, they have this. And in it, if you look through it, there's tons of things that they can do. And that's what we want to encourage our Wellington seniors to come here and have a speaker, and they can be in an individual room. That's why we're getting one separate, maybe an additional rooms available for that purpose.
The room that we're using right now for haircuts and toenails and massage is the office. So what happens when the telephone rings? She has to take the phone somewhere so she can hear what's going on. She didn't have access to her computer. I come bopping in to do my, oh, they're doing my hairs today.
I'm doing my secretary work at home.
Yeah, you're doing, yeah.
And I usually come in on the off days and work in the office when nobody's bothering me.
And the members that are members, a lot of them don't play cards. They want to just maybe watch TV or play pool or, just,
Or do a puzzle.
yeah, or a
Have a
puzzle.
place to put a
But
puzzle, you'd have to take
but we
it out.
can't. We just have one big room.
Thing about that is,
Yes.
we know you guys want to build a rec center sooner or later. And but that's just not quite the thing, you build a rec center and you don't have, it's different than having like a senior center, where just people come in, so. We've been thinking about that too, I mean, it's just,
Mhm.
I know you build that and.
Well, we care about our seniors. And if you go to the Fort Collins, I don't know, maybe you folks do have membership there. Well,
I've been there before.
okay,
No,
well,
Yeah.
I go there like 3 times a week.
Okay.
So I do my exercise, etc., or my walk. However, in the area where you socialize, there's only maybe about 8 to 10 tables. And they have other groups that are also there. So there really isn't a senior center. It's really for
It's open to everybody.
anyone 18 and older that pay their dues can go there. That's it. There really isn't a senior center.
But they still have to pay for everything they do. That's the thing of
Absolutely.
it. So,
I mean, if you
Not
look
just
at,
the dues, if they pay for everything they use.
yes,
Programming and access to the senior
Yes,
center.
absolutely.
and- Okay,
Yeah.
any of those things are always
right,
extra.
you have a monthly fee,
Uh-huh.
like if you have the senior silver sneakers. Okay, you can use their exercise area and you can socialize. However, if you don't, you have to do a monthly or a daily, and that costs you maybe $34 to $50 a month. Or $5 a day. So, and it doesn't matter if you're 18 or if you're 80, you still pay that amount. Unless you're, of course, you're seniors. But we got to see silver sneakers, that's different. But
And if we had more room and had more activities and programs to offer, we would have more members and more people coming. It would be just a win-win situation.
Another thing we thought about was trying to get a, gambling license and have a lot of bingo all the time.
And apples and all that, yeah.
But that, but that you have to have so many people on a volunteer list. And you have to have that many volunteers before they let you get the license. I mean, it's just one thing we've been looking into, so. I mean, we've been looking at a few things like that.
Looks like trustee Teets has raised her hand in Zoom. Trustee Teets, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just have a few questions. Thank you so much for the information. I was unaware that you guys started doing massage therapy. So when I talk to people about the senior center, I will make sure to give them a heads up on that one. So my questions mainly center around, have you guys spoke with any of the local restaurants? I know T-Bar has pool tables that anyone can utilize during their open hours. Have you talked to anybody about utilizing their space, given day or part of the month that helps work with the seniors to say, okay, the seniors are always meeting at this place at this day and this time to get together for a game of pool? We're going to have a speaker come and we're going to talk to Sparge, and we're going to have a speaker on senior resources, and we're going to have that event at Sparge, or we're going to have that event somewhere in the downtown area where there's space to do this. Has there been any outreach to the local businesses or churches as far as setting up groups, meeting places where you guys agree on a specific day and time you can get together at these different places?
We just started one down at Slurp.
Oh, cool.
Cribbage, if anybody wants to play cribbage,
Oh,
can come
what
down
day
there
is
Thursday
that?
night.
I love cribbage.
So come on down.
I
So
got
So far, there's
D&D
been
there.
46 of us. Every
What day is that?
Thursday from 6 to 8. Thursday.
So for the seniors, you would probably be able to speak to this. Do people enjoy coming to the center itself? Are they more comfortable there? I would,
yes.
that's
Yes,
kind of my impression as
absolutely.
well, but I didn't want to speak out of
Yes,
turn.
They get dropped off a lot
Yeah.
of them, so they can't move around.
Yeah.
This is their place.
So there is a comfort factor
Yes,
and just
absolutely.
feeling safe in the existing space.
Yeah.
For probably a good
Yes.
percentage.
We just want to make it more comfortable. for
Yes.
Well, we have one lady. Her son drops her off. I mean, he leaves her here the whole time. She plays either 31, eats lunch, wherever, he picks her up. You know, about 12:30, 1 o'clock, so every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's
Well, this question is for Patty. Is there any grants for something like to help the senior center or to help build a senior center or anything like that that we can apply for?
There are grants for just about anything.
Have we looked into that?
Not yet. I mean, because up until just recently, the Senior Resource Center was just fine working, because what they're looking for right now is help with their transportation, right? I mean, that's the specific ask that you'll talk about here in a little bit, and that was covered through Larimer County. So this ask for additional space and things like that, this is, I wanted to make sure the trustees were hearing this before we started embarking on, I mean, that will yet again be, you know, a budget request, staff time to look into those, you know, those things. And of course, we are happy to do so, but I want to make sure I get direction from the trustees before we start moving on something like that. So from what I understood, I mean, when we first started up, I wanted to make sure that the trustees got to hear the heart of the Senior Resource Center board and what their needs are, what their future looks like, and what their heart's desire is. But I also wanted to make sure that the trustees understood what their immediate need is. And we'll talk about that here in a couple minutes. But again, we can talk about grants and things like that later. If that's a direction the trustees would like to go. Potentially, it's something that gets added into the 2024-2026 strategic plan when we start talking about that next year.
I have done a little research, just kind of quietly looking for things, as well as I have a best friend who works for the grant administration for Bohemian, and asked her to kind of keep her ear out as well. And if she has any connections to where she can kind of guide me, like she's very in tune with her fellow grant people in Fort Collins. So in Larimer County. So I did ask her if she hears of anything. And I do kind of do my own covert research, trying to just, if there is something, and I just don't want us to miss it. So.
Kind of following up on your question, there are grants out there that I'm aware of and have available to the senior center. If we owned a building for infrastructure, for expansion, but not when we don't own it, we can't really, change the building any. If it was just our building, then we could.
I mean, big picture, you guys are looking for a home away from home, like a place where you can have your community and enjoy your time together, doing whatever you may want to do. And be able to separate yourselves. If people want to play cards, they can go play cards. If they want to be in another area, utilize it 5 days a week.
Right,
So, okay.
but still with the help of the town,
Yeah.
because we could not afford to run it. On our $25 a year.
Yeah.
Might have to go like Fort Collins.
That's why you do that. That's not.
I did, I went and toured the Eaton Rec Center. I don't know if any of you guys have been there, but the Eaton Rec Center serves also as a senior center. And they have dedicated community space within that rec center, with wonderful rooms with full kitchens and giant TVs and outdoor dining areas and all kinds of wonderful things in that facility. So when I went in there, I was like, oh, I want to get married here. Like, this place is nice. Do you guys do weddings? They're like, we want to, that's a good idea. But with that said, I've been writing things that you guys want, when I always think of this as a wish list. So
Right.
the reason why it's important for us to be on the radar, because if we do have an opportunity for anything that comes up that would also accommodate something on your wish list, it's really important for us to know.
Right.
And so, and I say that, of course, with motivation and understanding that we seek to do a master parks and recreation plan in the next year or so. It's in our strategic plan for this board. And a lot of things I'm hearing you say a crossover to other generalized parks and recreation needs, not just specific for audience of the seniors. So, but knowing exactly what your needs and desires are as we're going into that process, as potentially we're creating this steering committee to drive that process, or just so we can have that vision of what we're going after, it'd be really nice to have a very comprehensive list of exactly what you want as your wish list. If you were asking Santa, this is what I would make it. If I had it exactly as I wanted, you know, obviously their cost is a concern, but the wish list is important because if there are checkbox there and we are looking through that wish list and say, hey, we're working on this already, we might as well be able to check at the same time. It's important to know. So when I say wish list, I'm not saying this is what we're gonna do for you. But I wanna say that I wanna make sure everybody's well aware of what you want. So the things I got already, which are not complete, but you can help me out with this or bring it back to if you guys wanna really organize this to be very specific. But the things I wrote down are, or my thought that you have here is a kitchen and dining area. That's primarily what it is, right? And I know I've been to many eating events, which are my favorite. And then you talked about programming generally from the recreator, but like more programming available is what it sounds like would be it. So examples of that or what you would want to be looking for, those are some things that we could probably move even quicker on if needed. Gym or exercise area, an area for events or a venue for events, for the opportunity for speakers, a game room, puzzles, cribbage, all the games, a place for watching TV, an area for personal services, hair, massage, pedicures. And then I have some other actual items that I've been thinking of, but is there anything else that stands out immediately as a wish list? This is what we would love to have. Either from a facility perspective, programming perspective, support perspective, anything like that, or if you guys want to send that back into us, that's fine too. But if you have anything at top of mind, I'd love to write it down right now.
Well, being that I am familiar with the Fort Collins Senior Center.
Sure.
They have a great setup.
Yeah.
The problem there is the seniors are treated like any other person. In other words, if you're 18 and older, you can be there. So what we're wishing is the fact that there is a special place for seniors to hang out.
Exclusive.
Yes,
Exclusive.
exclusively.
Private. Yeah.
Private.
Okay.
You know, and they do have a library, they have accommodations for computers that you can
Said
use.
so many great keywords just now.
Mhm.
Loving it. That's good.
Computer
Library,
lab for
computers.
seniors.
Yes,
That
and
don't have
A computer at home.
Yes,
Yes. Okay.
and that is awesome if we could have something.
Seniors
similar.
really wanna know a computer thing?
I'm sorry,
The seniors really wanna know a computer?
absolutely.
It's
Once I
becoming
retire,
a
that's
necessity.
Let me
fascinating.
just tell you, these ladies are super and they're using the computer.
My 95-year-old mother is a whiz on the computer.
Oh, my goodness. That's easy.
He only says that out as his personal experience.
Amen.
And a nice
That's why I
walking
got,
track.
that's why I got this.
I know.
Walking
I
around.
couldn't do the computer.
Indoor, it's
Absolutely.
specifically what you're saying.
And of course, throw in a pool.
No.
Oh, you said the other word. You said the other word I was waiting for.
No, that's too much liability, too much work.
It's a wish list. Pretend like money or problems don't exist.
But having it exclusively for the seniors.
Exclusive.
Like now, the room is used by anyone in town that needs a larger room for an activity. The damage they do is staggering when they use the room. It really is. It's
The
Jenny's got it cleaned up a little bit.
Yes.
I tried. I tried.
Somebody had spilled paint or something all over
And
it.
I will say, some of it has been internal damage and we've addressed that, and then there's very few isolated incidents with external. But the internal is probably the worst of it.
You guys do exercising programming. I'm sorry, I don't want to take away. I wrote maintenance and like, on my list, just to acknowledge that one, but, you guys do programming, was it chair exercises?
Yes.
Like sit and be fit. for
Sit and be fit,
seniors.
that's what-
Yeah.
Because we were donated a huge TV. So, yeah.
Yes,
Huge.
Yeah.
that's a monster,
Isn't it?
yeah.
Well,
Sit
it
and
took
be
4 of
fit.
them to carry it.
So we just started that maybe a year ago.
That was in April.
April.
Yeah.
Just seems like a year.
Yeah.
All right, the other thing that, oh, please continue, yeah.
Well, we do have also lunches to provide, for $5 on Fridays. We do supply that because we feel that, what is the name of it? That our food comes from originally.
Well, the VOA.
Yeah.
Volunteers of America.
Volunteers of America, the food has just gone downhill.
Oh,
So,
It was bad when COVID hit, because prior to COVID, we had lunch Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every day. I mean, every week. And then COVID, of course, they stopped. And you had to go pick it up in Fort Collins, and it was packaged like a cold lunch, basically. Or sometimes you could microwave it and eat it up. But it wasn't, we tried it for a while with the bus picking it up close to lunchtime and bringing it up here. But people just didn't care for it. It wasn't good. So we quit that and we started doing the Friday lunches, which Frances is in charge of. She does the buying and the cooking and it's delicious.
you do it here in this kitchen?
Yes,
Okay.
and people come because they like to eat.
and to share
Yeah.
with,
Well, just,
And
Breaking
socialize,
bread, you know?
yeah,
it's like one meal a week, you know,
Yeah, oh, that's fun, cooking together.
extended family.
Yeah,
and
That
$5
kitchen
for,
does have its.
$5 for us, and some of these meals. is
Okay.
Just enough.
it's
like what, for example,
size.
size?
How many people could be cooking in there at once?
Two.
I only stand on the outside of the little
Yeah.
door, so I
It is
actually-
tight once you get in there.
Scratch, we're,
Yeah,
Something.
well, some of it, but.
Yeah.
Just
Cumbersome.
washing dishes is, that's set up in there.
they eat one specifically.
We have no
has it.
garbage disposal, no
Okay.
dishwasher, no dishwasher. So we're kind of. Hit and miss there.
Appliances.
So along the lines is what trustee Daly is asking for beyond the senior center. Like thinking like big picture, long-term for Wellington, what other resources or amenities can we provide townwide to allow our seniors to age in place more comfortably? Is it providing housing options that are appropriate, and what does that look like for you, or is it a certain amenity? Any ideas or thoughts on that?
Transportation is a big thing.
Transportation.
Housing is another big thing, but I don't know that much about housing for seniors.
So like, if you like, help me understand like that transition piece, is it like single story residential, I mean, a condo
Absolutely.
living, all of the
No
options?
stairs,
Yeah.
more
absolutely.
handicap accessible.
Like smaller yards, big yards, like what are
No
the type of?
yards.
Low maintenance.
There's a lot of
And-
Fort Collins, and they're all pretty expensive.
You talk about wish list?
Yeah.
Well. Have you ever heard of the villages in Florida?
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Golf courses.
Golf courses. They also have areas where you can get on your golf course, a cart. And go from place to place, whether it's the grocery store or, and you talk about, wish lists. There's a lot of seniors in the houses right next to Ridley's. And single women or single men, and if they get to the point where maybe they can't drive. And wouldn't it be great if you did have an area where you can have a golf cart? to go to the grocery store. I'm just throwing it out.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. But I think that, you know, points out something that's really important, that that's where a lot of our senior population lives, and we're working on that Parks and Trails master plan, so that's definitely something to keep in consideration is looking for that space in that downtown core for that wider trail access, that 8 to 10 foot trail path, you know, that leads directly to the store, that's not along the right of way, and that's, I mean, that's a huge challenge, but there's, you know, something to think about.
Well, I'll tell you something I learned. I've been a meat manager for 47 years, Safeway, all independents. I opened Main Street Market in this town for 'em. And the first thing we had to do was order turkeys for Thanksgiving. They asked me, how are you gonna do that? I said, well, how many people do you think live in town? They told me so much. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, you take that, you multiply 4. You can get that many turkeys and we'll hit it pretty close. Well, why? I said, because most families are 4 people in the family, they're only gonna buy 1 turkey, so. So it's not that hard to figure that stuff out. But a lot of people have never thought about that before, and I missed it by 8 turkeys. That's how many we had left.
Then transportation, I think that's kind of the, you know, the right side of here, too, like,
Biggest thing for the city.
I think that's a great segue into what the specific ask is. Can you tell us more about that? And
Yeah, can you touch on kind of the grant process a little bit? And I do have kind of some details on where the transportation funding, this is in the packet, but if anybody wants a hard copy, as well as kind of what was approved in the contract, I have those as well.
Sure, discuss.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe discuss kind of what that process looks like, and some people may not even know that there is a process to apply with the county just to even receive that funding.
Well, to begin with, the transportation that we do with the bus is totally separate from the senior center. They do not go together, or they both operate separately. And it's funded by a grant from Office on Aging and the town of Wellington, which provides the fuel and the maintenance and insurance and taxes on the bus. And then Office on Aging pays so much per each rider each month. And that pays the drivers and my salary out of that money. The grant, when I first started doing this in 2017, I think it was, the grants ran for 4 years, and you had to apply for them and figure out how much you were gonna need to run the program for 4 years. Well, then now they've cut it down to 2-year periods, and you wanted to figure out 2 years, a lot easier. But it's, you apply for it, and in the past, whatever I applied for, I got. So this year I upped it a little bit because I wanted to expand the transportation with more promoting it, more advertising, and that. But I asked for $84,040 basically for the 2-year period. Well, they approved my application, but then when they went to fund it, they only gave me $36,900 for the 2 years. So that's why we're gonna run short. The federal guidelines for this 2-year period, they wanted to focus more on nutrition rather than on transportation. So they gave a lot more money to the nutrition side of their grants and cut it from the transportation side. So that's why we're in this situation now. The way it works out, that 36,000 will run out in February of next year.
Yep, February of 2024. And what exactly does that mean? Can you elaborate on that for everyone?
Well, they have allowed X amount of dollars out of this 36,000 for however many rides we have each month at $25 per ride. And I increased our numbers a little bit when I applied for it because I was gonna get more people riding. with less people riding, the money will last a little longer. But it depends on how many people ride each month for their medical appointments. Then the next year is even less. They had some extra funds at Office on Aging that they threw in with the first year to give us the extra money, but then they didn't have it for the second year. So it runs out in November, I believe.
October.
October of next year. So if we didn't have anything additional, come February or March, if it was to extend a little longer until the following July, we could not run the transportation program. And that would be devastating for the patients that don't drive, do not have transportation to dialysis. One of them is, has his both legs removed, is in a wheelchair. He can't get into a car or something to make it to dialysis. He's got to have a wheelchair lift. And then the same thing the next year, if it ends in October, there would be no funding for transportation to run it until the following July, when I applied for another grant to cover the next 2 years. So that's where we were hoping the town could help us out with that.
I think it's a no-brainer for me. I mean, you guys need to be able to get to where you're going. If you can, you know, go for it.
Do you know how much is still remaining in our board discretionary fund?
I was going to, I was just in the process of trying.
All right.
What are the major services that are people being driven to? I heard dialysis several
There's
times.
4 patients for dialysis. They go 3 days a week. We could, if we were operating 5 days, there's times when, especially this man that has no legs, he ended up in the hospital last weekend because he needed more diet treatments than Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and didn't get them. So he had problems and the ambulance took him to the hospital. So he did end up with the treatments he needed. But if we could go 5 days a week, that wouldn't have happened.
And you got chemo and all this other type of stuff.
Anything, medical related, therapy, dentist, eyes.
And it's probably hard to coordinate that bus too, because they can get thrown at any time, correct? So having, like you say, a 5-day accessibility would definitely make it good.
A lot of the seniors don't like driving down to Fort Collins, if they do have car accessibility. And, yeah.
I think some of them, too, the important thing is some of them probably don't feel well enough potentially after treatment.
Yeah.
So it is critical to provide them with a safe mode of transportation home, I would imagine.
Yeah, we keep a cooler in the bus with snacks in it.
Right.
And then we've got a tub of blankets because even in the summertime, they're freezing after dialysis. So they're sitting back there wrapped up and falling asleep and.
I know this is a little off the target, but trying to find money. Have we priced out any of the other insurance companies? I know Progressive is a big one out there for the commercial. Have we tried any of the others? You know, we got a few State Farm agents here in town. I think they're pretty competitive, I think, on commercial. But I know here lately, the insurance companies have just taken some huge hits on premium, so it might be worth going out there and checking and get some competitive bids.
Part of getting this.
Sorry, is there a way to run the transport without having to open the entire senior center 5 days a week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they're separate.
Yeah.
Separate accounting, separate bank account, separate everything on the two.
Okay, so the
They both
funding that we're
operate
talking about,
independent.
the funding we're talking about is solely related to the senior care and senior bus running 5 days a week.
Yes.
Yes.
3 days.
Well, running 3 days a week right now.
Yeah.
Do we know what the cost difference would be of running the 5 days a week?
Yes, so for drivers.
Gas and maintenance would be one thing. And
Salary.
the salaries for the drivers.
Roughly 100 a day per driver.
Yeah.
So,
You had asked money, so year to date through September, it looks like, we have $18,990. So we're only 5.05% to budget for that board discretionary fund.
The transportation question is always twofold in my mind. That's one is how do we get people to where they need to go? And the second one is why don't we have those services here? So that's, I always see it kind of from those two directions. That's why I was asking what those major services are. Because medical services, of course, are not something that are right now flocking to Wellington. So, but that's something for us to be very well aware of, that if there's such a significant need and a daily need for some of our residents to have services that we don't have in Wellington available, we need that awareness to know that. The reason why this transportation need is so dire is because they can't get what they need here.
Exactly.
So, I do want to acknowledge that too, because as you say, I need help with this transportation. In my mind, I said, well, we need help with services in Wellington too. So I just want to make sure you guys, are realizing I'm kind of thinking of that twofold, but I really appreciate how you guys, outline this, of course, in the packet and stuff. This will be very helpful for consideration for budget kind of items to see if there's any assistance that we can provide for sure. But my other thought I had, and I wanted to acknowledge that first before I said anything else, but the other thing I was thinking of, and only because it's from the perspective of always fundraising for my kids forever, walkathon, sponsor this, sponsor that. But we hit up our medical offices and they donate 100% of the time. So if you guys are attending or visiting the same doctor's offices frequently, have we ever asked them if they would be interested in sponsoring our senior center or sponsoring an event at the senior center or sponsoring transportation or any of those kind of things? So for example, this is really, I still go to the same dentist as when I was a kid, but he sponsored me every year for 100% of the time. And I mean, this is a minor thing, but this is a relationship I built forever. I will never go to another dentist. My kids go to that dentist. My parents still go to that dentist. That is the dentist I love. And there's even a new dentist there and I still love him. And I don't even know this guy, right? Since I was 8 years old, but those doctor's offices tend to be really excited to have their name in places. So I don't know if that's okay, if it's possible to do, but not necessarily significant towards the transportation cost, but could be a way to get some sponsorship for other senior center related activities. So I didn't want to throw that out there too.
I have an idea, and to ties in, I like what Trustee Daly said. What if we tried to do something where you like a match? Where the board of trustees says, we'll do a 50% match, here's the needs of the senior center. You know, because I'm always looking at how are ways that we as a whole community can come together and help everybody, right? And so we as a board say, hey, we're gonna match 50%. And so basically out of the 8,600 that's needed for the rest of this coming year, we have the funds in our board discretionary fund that we could put towards that. But then basically you go to the community and say, hey, in you donating, not only will it help with whatever you're donating, with the town is actually going to match that, and they're also going to donate to help you, the seniors. And it might be a good way to kind of educate and get your name out there more, so more people know. So there probably are a lot of people here in town that don't realize we have a senior center. So maybe they could be inviting friends and families. This is a good way to let them know, get their name, get you guys' name out there, and at the same time, get them invested in what you guys are doing and maybe help towards some of the future projects as well, because maybe those people start to say, hey, separate from this, I like what you're doing here. I'd like to help fund other things. I'd like to help you expand to 5 days a week. I'm always looking, yes, we have the funds and we could put that towards that, but I always look at it's better to get the community engaged too, not just us handing out the money. But if we can kind of be a catalyst, because I know it's even more powerful when you come to somebody and just say, hey, I know that if you donate $20, but hey, if you donate $20, the town's going to match it. So we'll actually get $40 towards meeting our transportation costs. What do you guys think about that idea?
I think that's an awesome idea.
To a certain amount.
I don't have that issue, based on, like fundraising, for example, like for our pancake breakfast. Are you guys allowed to say, how did we do for that? Just to give context, because I do love the idea of that, but I also know, because I was there all day long at that pancake breakfast, you don't see as much as the community, you know, when you try and do that fundraising piece. And I was a little disappointed because I thought, wow, who doesn't want to come and support the seniors and have pancakes?
Right.
It was right.
True, it did.
It was raining.
Yes.
Well, and Ms. Jones, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but to your point too, I agree, Trustee Gator, that I think that that's a great idea and it's something that we should try and explore in 24, but we are looking at October of
Sure.
23, and it takes a lot of time and effort and energy to plan and coordinate pancake breakfasts and social events. So I think that having that conversation now is a really good opportunity to make that a goal for 24, but for 23, I'm very supportive of doing what we need to do to try and help them fill that gap for now. So I'm comfortable with, helping fill that gap with the discretionary funding. So that's a great use of those funds for this year. But I also honor the idea, and I think that you're right, that helps, it's a great opportunity to engage the community and get people excited about the senior center and make those community connections. I'm really concerned about it being so late in the year, and it does take so much time, energy, and effort to put together a fundraiser.
Exactly on that point too, PROS is doing a bunch of community funded projects. And we've acknowledged how much work it takes to raise money and how much time and coordination. So we're actually having to create a whole committee, likely this is how it's going, whole committee that just manages and creates a platform of how to make money for that specific need. So it's a lot of work. I mean, I love the idea behind it. I support that 100%. Like, for example, Sparge just did a silent auction, right? Which was awesome and fun. So, what if, and prior to that, we could have said, the town is planning to match everything that you guys make as proceeds from the silent auction. So those are opportunities that happen, but of course, a lot of work went into even creating that in the first place, right? So, so I want to acknowledge that exactly as you said, and somebody who's done a lot of fun, right? It's a lot of work. So, but I agree, community support is what we need to do. We need to create awareness, but we also need to make sure everybody can get to that 20 minutes. So.
Sorry, I had a question. Could I clarify something real quick? It was my understanding that Trustee Gator said that he was completely comfortable with funding the 8,600 this year, but encouraged the community and outreach program for 2024. Correct me if I'm wrong, Trustee Gator.
I didn't specify amount for this year. And I agree, planning fundraising events and things, those take more time. I honestly am not thinking fundraising events. I'm thinking, go knock on the doors of some of the businesses and talk to friends and people like that in town. What I would maybe say is maybe for this year, we say, hey, we'll fund up to 8,600 in matching, but why not? I mean, the funding runs out in 24 February. Why not start knocking on doors and talking to people right now? If we only raise $1,000, then great, we fund the other 7,600. If we raise 4,300, fantastic, we raise 4,300. And then I think it's a great idea to think of events and things like that. I have found that generally by going into actually talking to people, like Trustee Daly talked about, talking to the dentist, talking to the doctor, talking to this business owner, that business owner, is going to be more impactful than just putting together an event and inviting people out. Because it's great for the people that come, but people that don't come, they don't hear anything about it. And so I also think about it this way. We're heading into the part of the year where people are more apt to give money to a cause that they think is important, right? We're at the perfect time of the year when people are thinking about giving to this cause or that cause. So there's really not a better time to start looking into this. And again, it doesn't have to be something big and complicated this year. It could be something as simple as, hey, put together a super quick flyer. And I know I feel totally comfortable asking to have Mihaela work with Jenny to pull something together to make it easy. That shouldn't take much time, and see what we come up with. And if we only come up with $500,000, hey, it's $500 to $1,000 and we can fund the rest out of our discretionary fund. Because if my understanding is correct, the funding will run out in February. Is that correct? Based on, okay.
Yeah.
So we have them funds available. We can set aside in our discretionary fund the entire 8,600. So that way it's kind of earmarked if we need it all there. But then I'd love to see what can we get the community to do. And if they don't do anything, we plan better next year, but I didn't specify a specific amount, but I'm comfortable.
I think
but
we're all on the same page. Yeah.
Communication is very, very important because Sparge did the auction for us and everything. But the way they present it is they saved our bus program.
Okay.
that money didn't go anywhere towards the bus at all.
Okay,
That was the senior center.
got it,
They're
okay.
two separate entities.
You're right,
Okay.
because I thought it was the other way. So
Yeah.
you're right. I
Okay.
didn't understand that either.
No,
And somehow, and so, but a lot of people are thinking that,
got it,
well, didn't you just get some money?
got it.
You
And-
know, no.
No.
Well, yeah, we got money, but they think it's for the bus and it really was for the senior center.
Okay,
I'm one of those people.
So maybe we could put together, if anyone's interested outside of the senior board, obviously, maybe we could put together a small kind of intimate committee to kind of look at and kind of plan maybe some fundraising opportunities or door knocking those businesses, residents, et cetera, and just kind of.
Which brings me to the fact that you guys had a volunteer list for a raffle license, right? So can we sign up on your, can I sign up on your volunteer list? Will that help you guys to make your applications that you need to, or sign up to knock on doors or whatever?
We need to find a location. There's not a whole lot of places out here to do that.
Yeah.
For, you know, who does have a raffle license? Chamber. Just so everybody's aware.
The chamber does.
The chamber does. Yeah, so whenever I think of raffle, I'm like, hey, let's invite the chamber. Yeah. The other thing I heard earlier that was, I didn't talk about on the wish list was the communications and marketing piece, when you talked about the recreator and other fundraising based communication. So that is obviously a real need and a very valuable one. So not necessarily something that we can just say, ta-da, here's all the communication needs, but I think that knowing the need and exactly what that quantifies as of like how we can help from what extent when it comes to like staff participation. I love that idea. I'd love to actually have it formalized so we understand we have a million priorities right now, of course, right? So before we can, I guess, sign up for more of those kind of projects, I think we just really need to understand like what the capacity would be or those kind of things. But I think I'm glad you brought that up too, for like communications and marketing piece. That's good to know. That's a big need as well on the wish list. So I have that on my wish list as well.
You guys work with the chamber much
No,
for fundraisers or, you know, maybe.
we were the recipient of their fundraising a few years ago. When they had it up at Terry Bison Ranch,
Mhm.
we got $1,000, yeah, which was very nice. For the
So not
senior
much.
center. but
Even
not much.
1,000 is not much, but okay.
We have hosted breakfast for them. Over the years, we used to, before COVID, we did it every year. We had either a breakfast or a lunch,
Mhm.
because we were honorary members of the chamber.
And we had the facility where they're storefront businesses could come in and bring a table and kind of,
Mm.
you know, do their thing like a business. Before hours instead of after hours.
And at one time, the VOA used to send lunches up here and we'd take them out to people. And they kind of stopped that when COVID hit, because, you know, they just wasn't doing any of that, so.
That was Meals on Wheels.
I know they still service, my friend's dad, who lives about an hour away, he's been doing it for years, I always see him in town.
Does the food thing do any kind of things? They have really good dinners at the Boys and Girls Club. I know, whenever we've had them there. But I know we don't qualify for a lot of food bank community type resources right now because of our median income, but have you guys asked them at all? You know, they have really good meals. And then they're always like, take more. And then they take- They're really good.
So I had two questions. So the Office on Aging, is that, this us under Larimer County? Is that a department? How does that work? Is that underneath the commissioners or is it a separate entity in and of itself? I know there's a lot of weird things.
As far as I know it.
It's the Department of Human Resources.
Okay. Has there been any communication on staff? The staff has had anything of the thought process behind their change in the grants? Because that maybe is something we talk to the commissioners. I know you've got a relationship with Commissioner Shattuck McNally. Several of us have a relationship with Commissioner Cafalis. Maybe talk with them about, hey, what's going on here? This is really hurting our senior center. So we can try to have those conversations at a elected officials level. don't know that that will change anything, but we can at least have those conversations and maybe at least next time they go around, maybe they don't.
My understanding is that this came down from federal.
Federal, okay,
They wanted to push nutrition
okay,
instead
so
of.
transportation, okay.
I have meetings with all three commissioners before the end of the week, but I will bring it up and just ask if they have any perspective or
Okay.
anything on it, so.
Yeah. It's worth having a conversation, because I know they're aware of our desires to try and get more transportation related, so we'll see, maybe there's something that, maybe there's nothing they can do, but at least we can ask the questions. The other question I had, and this is kind of towards some of your thoughts on wanting more space, is that have we ever considered opening up kind of this area to kind of have a divided but separate area that you could do things in?
Absolutely.
We've thought of it.
Okay,
We have not, because of our equipment and things, we
Okay.
don't have a way to set it aside. And
Got
so
it,
we try to
okay.
keep this locked
This-
off, and not that we don't trust them.
gotcha,
It's-
okay.
We do that for everyone.
I just didn't know if, I was assuming if there's a reason we haven't, that was the question was, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Would it be
Definitely.
beneficial of us to get a storage cabinet for some of the electronics that can be put away? So up until we decide that a rec center or an additional senior center or space, is there any kind of funding we can do as far as getting cabinets that lock the electronics up?
I'm just gonna hazard a guess. I don't think the challenge is putting them in a cabinet. It's the tear down and putting everything back up every time we move it would be the problem, because you've got our meetings, you've got every other meeting, planning commission. So it's gonna constantly be in and out, which would just be a,
And we can do that. I mean, I think when Crystal was here, we looked at, getting some sort of cabinet built, and then it was just expensive to build something that would still look nice. And
Okay.
then, of course, we start talking about, well, what else can we do in here? And we want to suddenly paint walls and things. It just suddenly is like a remodel of the whole thing. So it's something we can look into it. I mean, I don't want to say no, but I'd like to give. our-
maybe throw that into
opportunity.
the CIP for the budget this year, like, hey, if we wanted to remodel the cabinet piece, what would that look like to enable more usability in this room? Maybe that's something we look at in budget during the CIP as a project.
You have a dividing line here more or less with the
Yeah, couldn't there be
archway.
a-
Why not go across with something like what we have over here?
Yeah.
Like another expanding wall.
Yeah, like
And it'll give us this room.
Wall like Johnstown.
Be awesome.
bulletproof.
Bulletproof, yeah.
You have that.
What do you guys do on those senior center days?
It's been a few years ago, but we did use part of this room for exercise.
Okay.
We had a gal that really came in and did a class, and I don't know, we'd have, I don't know, 12, 15. Yeah, and we did use this section down
Okay.
here.
Hey, you guys could do exercise with the flat screen instead of the rear projection,
Absolutely.
1,000-pound TV. I will say if cabinets is something that Patty is willing to entertain, I do know I have a team of 30 amazing do-it-yourself gentlemen who could probably build something pretty amazing at cost, just from getting items from Home Depot, Lowe's, lumber. A lot of them just have stuff that they would be probably willing to donate as well. But that's also a consideration. If we did go the cabinet route, we could have them do it and save probably a good amount of money to do it and make it exactly the way we like it visually.
So we would really, really appreciate it.
Now, I'm gonna tell you, in 10 years of driving that bus, I only turned down one rider. And I tell you, she called me on the phone, she said, I need to ride the doctor. I said, fine, where are you going? She said, well, it's across the lake. I said, what lake? She said, well, right here in Lebanon. I said, well, I don't go quite that far. Oh, it was, I mean, I couldn't believe it, across the lake.
Like what, the lake?
Yeah, that's what my first question was, like.
I do want to invite you all to come to the pros meetings of the parks, recreation, open space and trails. We have a advisory board, right? I'm liaison to the board. Because so many of your items are either related to or exactly matching exactly what they have on their exact wish list. I think it would be really great for you all to have presence there. They do public comment right at the beginning of the meetings. There's a board opening right now, if anybody would really, wanted to participate and be there a lot, but they would love to hear everything you have to say that relates to some of the topics that they're driving to, so you can get your perspective on it.
When did they meet?
When the first Wednesday, the second Wednesday. Second Wednesday of the month, I think 6 p.m. Leaper. Second Wednesday of the month, 6 p.m. Leaper. So it's right at 6 a.m. You'd be there. You don't have to stay much longer than that for public comment, if that's what
And
you
that's
want to do.
the Parks Advisory.
Yeah.
Parks, Recreation,
Open space
Open Space.
and trails. And
That's
trails.
PM, right? Trustee Daly, not AM?
Actually, the AM meeting would be.
Okay, just checking. I'm totally okay with agreeing to the funding up to the 8,600. I really like Trustee Gator's idea about engaging in the community into getting them involved. And he is very correct. Being a person who owns a business, we are always way more happy to give towards the end of the year because we know what our budget looks like and we have additional funds to give. So that's always a huge kudos when towards the end of the year does come. So I think that's a key point to remember when we're looking at funding to drive extra donations towards the transportation section. Not that I don't want the senior center side of the funding to dwindle, but I also like the idea of momentarily being able to increase their space to allow for more items. And if it's something that's cost effective and does not break the bank, I would like to see what that looks like in doing either that additional partition wall, that divider that helps separate the electronics, or do that storage cabinet. The divider wall would be perfect because then we're not dedicating additional staff time to having to break down, move around, do additional stuff. But then it gives them a separator where they can still host one thing in one area and then have haircuts possibly in the additional area that can be sectioned off. But other than that, I would support their additional funding for the 8,600.
Thank you, Trustee Teets.
Yeah, all I know is that divider would cost a lot of money.
That'd be more than a cabinet.
Yeah, I wrote down cabinet,
Yeah.
divider with a question mark.
Like, probably a couple $1,000.
Oh, yes, it's and like my head's exploding on it, so.
Just the,
Yeah.
Logistics.
but yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Unfortunately, you can't make any actual decisions during working sessions.
Right.
No, I
Right.
mean, this information is fantastic.
Have you got our direction?
Yep, so I can
board
bring something to the
concurrence
Board of
direction?
Trustees.
Perfect.
For the 8,600, I do have a question about, the end of the bottom of the sheet talks about funding needed, which will be of the $20,900 because the funding will be used up by October of 2024. So that's something that has 2024
Yeah.
budget implications.
Yeah, I would say put that into budget discussions for.
Yeah.
For you guys.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I'm
I
totally
will-
open to having the conversations.
Okay.
It's not that we couldn't fund the whole thing, but it's again, we're asked to fund multiple things and are ranging from
Okay,
helping with water bills to all over the place. And so what I'd love to see is if we can really focus hard on doing like I talked about doing a split. So maybe we fund the 10,450 and we use that as a match, right? To help drive fundraising from other members of the community. And if it still falls short, I'm totally fine to come back and have more conversations, but I'd say absolutely, let's put that into the mix of items that we're going through for budget for next year so that we can kind of drill down and we can discuss it as a board and we could decide that we're going to fund all of it or whatever that decision is, but I think it'd be a good item to add to the list.
we will add that is in the administrative budget, so we'll just add the extra 20,900 and y'all can talk about it when we meet in another couple of weeks on budget. Sound good, Mr. Mayor?
For those.
Excellent. Thank you. I just want to make sure. Didn't want to make any assumptions.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
everything.
for
Thank
everyone
you.
being here and having a very productive conversation.
Good job, you guys. And Sergeant Cherry and I take turns coming in and visiting with the seniors on our assigned Wednesdays and things. It's been really fun to come and meet with everybody and And they actually clap when Jenny and I get done speaking, which I don't know.
That's the way. That is the win.
Yeah, we know.
You know. If you know, you know. That is the win.
Are they clapping because we're leaving or? Yeah, but we're finally done.
So,
It has been really fun to be here
Yeah.
and hear their questions, and they ask a lot of questions about town, activities, ask questions about potholes and when things will get fixed and things like that.
Yes.
So it's been a great communication strategy for us,
Good.
so.
A list of many things we have to spend money on.
yes.
Yes, all the things. All
I just
right.
want to thank you guys for working with us on the bus. That's driving a lot of conversations around transportation. So we're continuing to work on that. So
That's-
hopefully sometime soon, which is soon in government is who knows when.
Yeah.
But we'll be able to get something going with Fort Collins and hopefully that'll help out more to have more days. Maybe that helps with the
Yeah.
more times in that. It's not quite as convenient as driving you straight to the doctor's office, but at least if you can get into Fort Collins, it becomes easy.
Ms. McClure, I did just have one real quick question for you. When is the next application cycle for the OLA grant?
It'll be
July.
probably opened up in like January of 25. And been funded by July of 25.
Great.
That's every 2 years.
Got it.
And it started this last July.
Got it. Understood. I just want to make sure that, obviously, we'll talk to some of the commissioners and see what options we have available there, because obviously, if Larimer County is not gonna be able to do that going forward, we're obviously gonna have to make some decisions.
Right,
How-
yeah,
how-
yep.
how-
kind of what it sounds like, it was pushed down federally, right?
Mhm.
So, but it's worth the talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there's other options or they have some suggestions.
And that might be something to go to the MPO or not, we're on the MPO. the
TPR.
TPR and talk to them and maybe see if we can work something in funding for that. Since one of the other, because it's transportation specific, to see if there's any programs. So we can start pursuing some of those options.
You can mention it when Suzette Mallet is here. I believe she comes and presents next week.
Next week, okay,
I
okay,
believe it's on next week's agenda
okay,
for the Board of Trustees, but yes, she'll be here to
Okay.
talk about MPO and TPR, and that could be
Okay.
at least something to put on her radar.
perfect. Thank you for letting me know.
You bet.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. Good job.
Have a good night, guys.
So, all of it. We'll take it all.